Jumping straight in, just wanted to start by asking you to briefly introduce International Bird Rescue. What's your mission and where and how do you carry out your work?
Yeah, International Bird Rescue is 50 years old this year, started in April of 1971 in response to a big oil spill in the San Francisco Bay Area. Our mission is to inspire people to act toward balance with the natural world by rescuing water birds in crisis.
I wonder if there's a specific story of the work that Bird Rescue has done that really highlights the organization, what it is, how it works and the value it brings.
A good example of the work that we do is actually a response we're doing right now. It's a non-oil incident in Long Beach Harbor. A nesting colony estimated about 3,000 elegant terns. Elegant terns are a kind of seabird that you've probably seen before, but maybe never thought to identify. They're really good at hunting for fish, and they nest colonially. The colony seems to have been disturbed about a month ago in its better habitat, a wildlife refuge, and moved on completely, finding a couple of barges in the harbor. They crowded on, and good for safety, not so good for the chicks once they start running around and they're falling off the edge into the water. In normal environment, going into and out of the water is pretty normal, but these birds cannot get back up the 2 feet distance between the water level and the barge. So it has been about 10 days now of really intensive field operations, scooping up the birds from the water because they get quite cold, and once they get weak and cold, they very quickly will die if not intervened on. We have admitted somewhere near 500 elegant tern chicks. What's really special about them as well is their parents take pretty exceptional care of them for the first 6 months of their lives, meaning we have to do hand feeding. Some birds can be taught to eat out of a dish pretty quickly and easily, which makes the work a lot easier. These birds were being hand-fed, assisted feeding 2 to 4 times a day. Rising up, increasing the staffing, bringing in more volunteers, finding partners. This is all kind of the lifeblood of what we do. A really good experience for practicing a lot of the protocols of a spill response without having the complexity of the contamination and all of that as well.
This is an incident in your backyard, so to speak, but the international in your name has been very much a core aspect over the years, because also there's been as you say, a connection to the international community and a lot of support that the organization has given to international responses to oil spills all over the world.
That's absolutely right. International was in the name from the very beginning. Our 2 wildlife centers that run year round are both in California. We also have a turnkey facility in Alaska serving that state, but the organization has responded to spills. I think it's somewhere around 235 incidents around the world. Thanks to a partnership with IFAW based in the UK, we were able to do a lot of international spills fully 10 years ago or so. We're hoping to actually fill the gap that was created when they stepped out of that work in the coming years, because I think it's still what comes next is going to be more complicated. Fortunately, there are more organizations like the members of GOWRS and others who have sort of taken up the charge of developing oiled wildlife response expertise. But the next big spill is quite likely to be in a place where none of us is actually based.
Yeah, it's a good point, and it's a good segue to talking about some of that international collaboration, because as you say, International Bird Rescue has been one of the partner organizations in the multi-year Global Oiled Wildlife Response System project. So, from that perspective, I mean, what do you see as one of the most significant achievements of that initiative, of the work that group has been doing over the years?
What it really excites me is here's 10 organizations plus Sea Alarm providing guidance. What does it look like when there's 100 of them? And how does the core of what we've built make that possible, so that an expertise is built in a place like Nigeria, where a lot of oil is being moved around, and maybe there isn't even a oiled wildlife. There's definitely not an oiled wildlife response, but maybe there isn't wildlife rehab well developed there either. And how could those things come together? So I feel like the collaboration, the partnership, the good spirit that this has allowed us to work on is really the most valuable thing. I lean into the history of Jay Holcomb, my predecessor, who I know you knew very well. The idea was go to a place, leave the expertise, leave the knowledge, share what you know, get people on a path. And honestly, there are organizations that exist that are as strong and stronger than bird rescue now because of that legacy.
Why do you think making this transition from GOWRS as a project to actually being a funded service is so important for wildlife response preparedness?
We're facing a generation change. How do we make sure that there's always going to be people on the growth path, becoming the next sort of big heroes of wildlife response? It can't be on a few key people anymore. It's got to be something that becomes kind of an industry of its own. This investment, this formalization, I think allows that depth of bench and sort of succession planning, so that when all the folks who've been doing lots and lots of spills and the number of spills goes down have retired, those that remain will actually still be able to do as great a job or even better because of all they've learned.
What would getting this funding mean specifically for your organization, for International Bird Rescue?
Yeah, absolutely. The organization's current resources get eaten up very easily by wildlife rehabilitation. We think it's important. It's a testing ground. It's how we train up a lot of our new responders. They're people who work and live day to day in the clinic aspects. This commitment would actually allow us probably to add staffing, deepen our bench, actually invest in more of that global preparedness work.
And as we continue our journey of introducing people to some of the partners of the project, so our next partner featured on this podcast is going to be the Old Wildlife Care Network. So I was wondering if we could just if I could just finish off by asking you to say something that you particularly admire about the Old Wildlife Care Network as a sort of segue to their interview.
Yeah, it's sort of a perfect partner for us to be asked about, because we work very closely together. We actually co-run the two facilities in California, and Jay Holcomb, who I mentioned earlier, Mimi Wood Harris, a couple of our staff were intimately involved in the early stages of what would become the network. I think that what's so amazing about OWCN is that they've taken the rigor and resources and wherewithal of the university system and brought it into something that was nonprofit led, sort of limping along. You can't really get to a scale without connecting into bigger levels and things. Mike Zaccardi specifically getting involved with NOAA and other aspects of government agencies, in addition to state agencies, other universities, et cetera. The level of collaboration and the ability to build a system that creates more responders, I think that's really incredible. I do admire it very much. The fact that we're one of now, I think, 45 plus members in that network shows this capacity to kind of build something that is more lasting than one organization can do on its own.
Any last comments or thoughts you wanted to share just before we close?
It just that this is such a great moment and opportunity for what is probably a low investment for the big picture. You end up with a sustaining, growing network of knowledge that deepens not only the field of those who are already in it, but actually brings more people on board. I'm pretty excited by that, and I hope that next year's Effects of Oil on Wildlife Conference 2022, which we'll be helping to host, will actually show some of this really directly. So excited, and thank you for involving us, Paul.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, I look forward to the conference next year, and yeah, wish you and the rest of the team all the best with the turn response at the moment. And again, thanks for being with me today.
No worries.